Secrets, silence, and the storm that no one saw coming. Tonight, the sister wives story takes a turn that will haunt viewers for years. Fans expected drama, but not this, not Meri Brown standing before the cameras, looking directly into the heart of the storm, tearing away the mask Kody Brown has worn for decades. This is not just a fight. This is an eruption of truth. A revelation so raw it shakes the foundation of a family and leaves millions gasping for air. And tonight, we walk together through every word, every reason, and every consequence of Meri's thunderous stand. The episode opens quietly, deceptively so. A stillness blankets the Brown household, but tension hums in the air like electricity before a lightning strike. For years, viewers have watched fractures widen, secrets deepen, and relationships fray. But tonight, everything pivots. Meri, the first wife, had been quiet for years. Observant, thoughtful, carrying burdens no one else could see. Yet beneath her calm exterior simmered decades of pain, of being overlooked, dismissed, and cast aside. For so long, silence was her shield, but tonight, silence could no longer hold. She stands, her posture steady, her eyes unwavering. The camera zooms in, capturing every nuance of expression, and then she speaks, the words that will echo across screens and social media timelines alike. "You don't get to define me anymore, Kody. You don't get to tell me who I am, or erase the years I've stood here, holding this family together while you broke it apart." To understand the magnitude of this moment, we must go back. Way back to when hope was new and trust fragile. Meri was the cornerstone of Kody's dream. A plural marriage that seemed audacious but filled with promise. She believed in him, supported him, and carried the weight of a vision that was as exhilarating as it was fragile. "I remember the early days," Meri would later confess in a reflective interview. "I believed in us. I believed in him. And I believed in love, even if it meant standing alone in a room full of people who didn't understand what I carried." But as time went on, the dream began to shift. New wives entered the picture, alliances formed, and slowly, Meri's presence in Kody's life diminished. Moments of dismissal, cold remarks, and absent intimacy became routine. Viewers recall the blunt confession that left a permanent scar. "I don't feel love for Meri anymore. I don't want to be in a marriage with her." Words that were not only final but erasing. And yet, Meri stayed, not out of weakness, but because hope, even a flickering one, can be a powerful anchor. Behind closed doors, the hurt was profound. Rejection, humiliation, invisibility. Meri bore it all. Robyn's closeness to Kody grew. Christine navigated her battles. Janelle found her own voice, and yet, Meri swallowed her pain quietly. She was strong in a way the world didn't see, enduring, surviving, waiting for a moment that was entirely her own. "Some nights I felt like I was fading," Meri shared, her voice low and trembling. "I questioned if anyone would even notice if I walked away. And yet, I stayed, because leaving didn't feel like an option, not yet." And now, the moment arrives. This season premiere, this one episode, is the eruption of all that quiet suffering. Meri, her eyes brimming with restrained tears but burning with resolve, addresses Kody directly. "You broke me down for years, Kody. Piece by piece, you chipped away at me until I almost believed I was nothing. But I'm not nothing. And tonight, I'm done letting you treat me like I am." The room is stunned. Fans at home freeze in disbelief. Even the other wives are caught off guard, their reactions a mix of awe and apprehension. Christine, once a fighter in her own right, looks almost breathless. Janelle lowers her gaze. Robyn, the ever-defender of her husband, clenches her hands, but remains silent, and for once, Kody has no words. Meri continues, her voice unwavering. You want the world to think you're the victim, Kody. You play the role of the husband abandoned by his wives. But the truth? You abandoned us long before we walked away. You abandoned me while I was still standing right here. Her words are sharp, precise. Years of betrayal, grief, and quiet suffering have found a voice. You call me disloyal, but what about your loyalty? Where were you when I begged for your attention? Where were you when I needed a partner, not just a husband in name? You erased me, Kody. You erased our marriage while pretending it was my fault. The cameras capture every flicker of emotion, every micro-expression. Kody's tightening jaw, his shifting in his seat, the subtle yet undeniable loss of control. The defining moment comes. Words that reverberate far beyond the confines of the room. You don't get to define my worth anymore. You don't get to decide who I am or whether I belong. That's over, Kody. I decide now. These are words of liberation, not just for Meri, but for anyone who has been silenced, overlooked, or dismissed. Freedom, in this moment, is not loud and brash. It is steady, deliberate, undeniable. Kody mutters feebly, "This is just rewriting history. This isn't fair, Meri." But history is not being rewritten. It is finally being told. After the confrontation, the episode lingers on the aftermath. Interviews, confessional moments, and introspective reflections create a mosaic of emotion. Meri walks alone through a sunlit corridor, thinking back on decades of service, sacrifice, and quiet endurance. Fans flood social media, sharing gifs, quotes, and stunned reactions. Meri finally spoke the truth. One comment reads, "The other wives gather privately, discussing their own experiences and reevaluating alliances. Kody, finally confronted with the consequences of his actions, retreats inward, silent, introspective, and shaken." As the cameras fade, the words linger. Meri has reclaimed not just her voice, but her identity, her dignity, her power. This is more than a marriage unraveling. This is a statement about life, resilience, and the courage to speak when silence has lasted too long. And as I step forward, Meri reflects, I leave behind doubt, fear, and the shadows of control. I walk into the light of my own story, untamed, unbroken, and entirely myself.